This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, the draft is right around the corner, which means it's time to talk about the positions that the Cleveland Browns should and should not target. Today, we're going to be talking about the players that the Browns don't need to target. In a video dropping later on, I will be talking about the positions that the Browns should target. The reason I want to do it this way is I want to give more time to talk about the different position groups and why I feel like those position groups should or should not be attacked. So right now we're talking about the position groups that I don't think the Browns need to target. Now this comes in with any draft conversation. Best player available is most certainly a thing. And it might just be the case that the best player on the board might play one of these positions. If that is the case, I don't really have a problem with it. But where I use kind of this position needs chart is when it comes to tougher decisions, right? Two players that you like. One plays a position that you really need. One player doesn't play a position that you need. So you probably should get the guy that fits there, right? It's never just all 100% best player available. It's never all 100% needs based in the draft. It's always a mix of those two philosophies. And sometimes it's a little bit more needs based. Sometimes the pick is made because it's a little bit more best player available based. There's no one right way to do it. So let's just talk about it and let's talk about the positions I don't think the Browns need to target in the 2024 draft. First position is quarterback. Now, when it comes to the position groups that I don't think the Browns need to target, you're going to hear me say this phrase a lot. Start the drinking game now. There's no room for a player to develop. Right now, that is the case at quarterback. You have Deshaun Watson starting at quarterback, and he's obviously going to start for this team. He's being paid $230 million. So best case scenario, he's the only one that touches the football at that position for the Cleveland Browns. Then you have the backup, and definitively so, Jameis Winston, who is a very good backup quarterback in the NFL. He's had long stretches of success as a backup quarterback, has even had some success as a starter, a former #1 overall pick. He is obviously going to be the backup quarterback for this team. And if the Browns choose to roster two quarterbacks, it's going to be him. It's going to be Deshaun Watson. Now they also have DTR, who they drafted in the 5th round and thought highly enough of him to start him, not just once, but twice when Deshaun Watson went down. And when I say that, I don't mean that he started in 2 games. When I say that, I say he was named the starter when Deshaun Watson was out, when there are other options available. Both times, right? So they thought highly enough of him at that point to put him in that position. Now, maybe what they saw last year in the building might have soured them on that, because they did make the move to bring in the next guy I'm going to talk about, Tyler Huntley, who is one of the better backups in the NFL as well. Backed up Lamar Jackson, was able to help Baltimore make a playoff game in the absence of Lamar Jackson. He's not a better backup than like Jameis Winston, but he is a true blue professional backup. And if he's competing with DTR, I don't think DTR has the advantage in that matchup. Either way, that's the quarterback room. You have 4 guys who you got to make a tough argument to cut. There's no room for a 5th guy, right? You can like Joe Milton, but are you going to cut DTR to keep Joe Milton? I don't think that would be a great move, me personally, even though I don't think DTR's skill set fits what the Browns want from a developmental quarterback in this system. I still think DTR is a better prospect and could be a better player overall than Joe Milton, because I don't think Joe Milton really has a professional future in the NFL. The other quarterbacks you can name, Spencer Rattler, I think DTR is a good enough prospect at this point that it wouldn't really make a ton of sense to move off of him just to bring in another rookie with similar to lesser prospects than him. So I don't think quarterback is really going to be on the board for the Cleveland Browns. Maybe if something crazy happens, and something crazy is like Jaden Daniels is there at 54 or something, then they might consider it. But outside of something absolutely wild like that happening, I doubt that the Browns are going to look at quarterback. Like if Drake May or Jaden Daniels makes it to 54, okay, we could talk. But outside of that impossible scenario happening, it's not going to happen. All right, so let's talk about another position I don't think the Browns should take. Center. Another position where I don't think they have much room. They drafted Luke Whippler last year. Now, they lost Nick Harris in free agency, but they have that position kind of sold up in the short term. They have their current center under contract for multiple years. They have Nick Harris. Not Nick Harris. They have Luke Whippler under his rookie deal for the next couple of years. They're pretty set at center. I could see them maybe in the 6th, 7th, or maybe as an undrafted free agent, bringing in a center just to try to make the roster. But overall, I don't think they're going to make any serious attempt of developing a center in this year's draft. Same thing goes for defensive tackle. Look, the Browns spent a 3rd-round pick on Siaki Ika last year, and we can't get that man on the field. We can't even get that man out of his sweats, right? Like he can't be active on game day. They just signed Quentin Jefferson, which tells me that they don't have any plans on having Siaki Ika be active this year. And when your rotation is Dalvin Tomlinson, Maurice Hurst, Shelby Harris, there's really no room, right? There's no room for him. And then Quentin Jefferson is added in there. There's 4 professionals. You're going to keep 4 active on game day. Maybe Siaki Ika makes the roster. If you draft a defensive tackle, that's going to be to attack Siaki Ika's spot. And maybe the Browns aren't 100% sold on Siaki Ika, so they could draft somebody that replaces them. But for somebody they spent a 3rd-round pick on, it wouldn't be the Andrew Berry way to give up on that dude just a year after they drafted him. That's not really how Andrew Berry goes out. Like it takes an extraordinary amount of, I don't want to say misfortune because Perion Winfrey falls in that. That wasn't misfortune. That was just stupidity. But it takes something like that, right? Perion Winfrey doing what he did. You can Google it. It takes K. York having the worst preseason of all time. Hell, man, Anthony Schwartz had some horrible moments in his first 2 years as a Cleveland Brown. They still gave him that 3rd, right? So I don't think that the Browns are going to be out on somebody they just drafted unless it's drastic. Like there's something serious that they have to address at that position or with Siaki Ika. It doesn't strike me that Siaki Ika is a locker room problem or anything like that. He's still just a developing player. I don't imagine that the Browns make a move in the draft that will require them to get off of him. So I don't think they're going to really target anybody in those like first 3 picks that they have at that defensive tackle position. Same thing goes with edge. In the edge room, like there's just truly no room. You usually keep like 4, maybe 6 edges, but 4 are going to be active on game days. Right now, that's locked up, right? You got Za'Darius, you got Miles, you have Isaiah McGuire, who you drafted last year with a 4th-round pick, and then you have Obo Okoronkwo, and then you have guys who you drafted in later rounds that you've kind of brought back on the team, Sam Kamara, Isaiah Thomas. You really just got no room at edge to develop anybody. So getting somebody who's developmental wouldn't make too much sense. When you look at the contract statuses of the main edges on the roster, Isaiah McGuire is on a rookie deal. Alex Wright still on his rookie deal, so he's not going anywhere. You look at Myles Garrett, clearly not going anywhere. Za'Darius Smith just signed a 2-year deal. He's not going anywhere. Obo Okoronkwo has another year left on his deal. He's not going anywhere. There's no room. There's no seat. There's no path for a player to get on the field in the next couple of years. It wouldn't make much sense. The window of opportunity for a rookie contract at that position just doesn't make too much sense. So I don't think the Browns are going to be too interested in the edge. Again, if something crazy happens, if Chop Robinson is there at 54, they might consider it. But outside of something like that, probably not going to do it. This is one that I had a hard time putting on a not list. They don't need to target this list simply because I think Andrew Berry loves drafting guys at this position, and his defensive back and his safety. Now, safety, I'm a little bit more flexible on. I think there's some reasons why they might consider safety, but for the most part, I don't think they're going to bring in a safety. They already have D'Anthony Bell and Ronnie Hickman as depth pieces. They brought back Ronnie McLeod. They just extended Grant Delpit, and they signed Juan Thornhill last year. So a similar thing where there's no path for any safety to really make the roster or make any kind of have any kind of pivotal role on the team anytime soon. I mean, you're struggling to fit guys like Ronnie Hickman and D'Anthony Bell into that rotation. I don't think they add another into that. When it comes to DB, you can make the argument that, hey, Denzel Ward, you never know the future with him. Greg Newsome could be somebody that you trade, even though I don't think that was ever going to happen. But Greg Newsome, his future could be up in question. We'll see if his 5th-year option gets picked up next month. There are some questions about Greg Newsome and his future with the Cleveland Browns. The Browns aren't going to be able to extend every single player on their roster, and he might just fit the bill of a player that they're not going to be able to bring back. If you look at this roster right now, they drafted Cam Mitchell last year. They have Martin Emerson. They have Denzel Ward. They have Greg Newsome. They have an abundance of corners. They still got AJ Green somewhere back there. They have an abundance of corners. There's more corners that are good than can make the roster right now. If you add another name to that list, you just kind of make things a little bit more difficult for yourself. Maybe next year is the year that they try really hard to get another corner because, again, you don't know the future with Denzel Ward with all the concussions that he's had. You're always concerned that the next concussion will be his last play and he'll retire or something like that because he's just had that amount of concussions. And with Greg Newsome, you haven't seen him play outside corner that much. And he's kind of been forced to be a slot guy because of his fit. And when you've seen him outside, he looks a lot better than he does in the slot, but that's kind of the spot that you need him to play. But even if you don't like Greg Newsome in the slot, you have Cam Mitchell ready to step up. So there's really no spot for another DB to come in here, and it makes a ton of sense. Now, I do have a couple of positions that are on my maybe they will, maybe they won't list. Wide receiver is one. I don't think that they will be crazy for wide receiver in this draft, but if something crazy happens, they will draft a wide. If Keon Coleman is there at 54, they're going to take him. If they really like Xavier Leggett and he's there at 54, they will consider it. If they love Jalen Polk, they will take him. If they love Jermaine Burton and he's there at like 86 or somewhere in the 200s, they will take him. I don't think it would be crazy for them to draft a wide receiver, but if you look at this room, especially if they extend Amari Cooper sometime soon, which it sounds like that's something that they want to do. They extend Amari Cooper. They've already extended Jerry Jeudy. Those two pieces of news that have dropped in the last month really changes the calculus on what the Browns might do in the future, because now instead of all 3 of those wide receiver positions being up for grabs next year because they're all going to be out of their contract, it might just be Elijah Moore, who might not be that expensive to retain, so you might be able to bring him back if he has a good enough year. And then it would be a battle between guys who are already on the roster to fill that role. You would hope Cedric Tillman, who you spent a high enough pick on, would be able to fill that role in year 3, but it's just not necessary to take a wide receiver in this year's draft. And that's also where I'm at with running back. I don't love drafting a running back in this year's class because I think the running back class this year stinks. I don't think it's good. I like maybe 2 running backs. I'm not a big fan of Blake Corum. The one running back I do like, I still think has a ton of issues. And I just would not, like, if you're going to draft a running back, I don't think this is the year. I really don't. I look at the class. I don't think it's the year. You could make it make sense, but it doesn't look like the Browns think it's the year to draft a running back because they've already brought in Dante Foreman. They've already brought in Nyheim Hines in addition to the other 4 running backs that they have on the roster, plus Nick Chubb. So that to me signals they're not interested in running back in this year's draft, or maybe they're interested in 1 or 2 guys that they're not going to really bet the farm on being available when they pick. So I don't think running back's going to be in this year's draft class. And that's simply because I don't see a world where there's going to be a running back that's high enough on their board to justify them taking this year. I just don't see it. But that's my list of positions that I don't think the Browns should target in this year's draft. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.